Have you heard the story about Frostproof, Florida? Yeah, there's really a place called Frostproof, Florida. And I'm going to tell you how I learned about it because I didn't know it existed until I got some paperwork right here that said, you're going to drive a bus to Frostproof, Florida. You're going to pick up some people and you're going to take them down to Immokalee for a convention. And then you're going to take those people back to Frostproof when the day is over and then bring the bus back to the terminal. So I said, okay. So I looked up on the old Google Maps to see where Frostproof was. I mean, is there really a Frostproof, Florida? I mean, no one really named a town in Florida Frostproof, right? Frostproof, come on. Let's find out about this. So I had to go to the terminal and get my bus, and I found out that Frostproof was in the center of Florida. And if you know where St. Petersburg is, well, Frostproof is at the very bottom of St. Peter. If you drew a line all the way across the state, you would go to the middle of the state, and you would find there is a small town called Frostproof, Florida. So I see it on the map, and I'm thinking, really? So I calculate out how long it's going to take me to get there. It's a 2-hour trip. I got to be there by 6:30 in the morning. Yeah, 6:30 a.m., 2-hour trip. What time do I have to leave the terminal? Minimum 4:30. So I'm thinking, well, let me get to the terminal about 4, leave the house at 3:30, get up at 3, do a little paperwork, check the tires, make sure the oil's good in the bus, drive it 2 hours north to Frostproof, and get ready to pick up my people at 6:30. But on the way up, I'm thinking, man, I'd like to have a cup of coffee. It's early in the morning. There's nobody on the roads at that period of time. I'm taking some back roads up the center of the state of Florida. It's all pretty much agricultural, citrus, sugarcane, a lot of cattle, but who can see anything? It's dark. It's still night. There's a nice big moon out tonight. So I've got my headset in my head, and I'm listening to some music, and I'm headed to Frostproof. So my GPS tells me that I'm approaching Frostproof, and I think, boy, a cup of coffee would be good. And I look at my watch, and I think, well, I've got a few minutes. I wonder if there's a coffee shop of some kind in Frostproof. Because Frostproof's not very big. I looked that up. It's a town of about 3,000 people. That's all it is. And it's mainly agricultural. Citrus, sugarcane, cows. That's basically it. Vegetables. Vegetables. They do make vegetables. And grapefruit. And tangerines. So they grow all that stuff. So anyway, I pull into the main street going north through Frostproof, and I see my turn where I'm supposed to go to the right to pick up my people, which is about a quarter mile down the road. And I see on that corner over there a McDonald's. And I think to myself, ooh, I could have myself a cup of coffee. So I go over to McDonald's, and I can't get in the driveway because the bus is too big. And so I park right next door in a large empty lot, get out of my bus, walk over to the McDonald's, and I'm walking in, and there's a group of guys sitting around having morning coffee. The coffee clutch, the guys up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:30, whatever time McDonald's opens up, they're over there, all got a cup of coffee, all chit-chatting, and they watch me as I walk in. I am out of character for Frostproof. This is a laid-back town, agriculture, bib overalls, you know what I'm saying. But I'm wearing tailored slacks, black. I'm wearing a shirt that's been pressed. I've got a belt. I got shiny shoes. I'm out of place. So the guys look at me, and I know they're looking at me. It's like, good morning, Mike. Hey, how you doing? What are you doing in town? Oh, I pulled up in that bus out there. I'm picking up some people and taking them down to them. Oh, you're driving the bus. Yeah. I said, but guys, I do have a question. On the way up here to get my people, I thought to myself, how in the world did this place get named FROSTPROOF? And they said, you don't know the story about that? I said, no. I said, but I'm going to let you tell me. I'm going to go get my coffee, and then I'll be right back, and you can tell me the story. I've got a few minutes, okay? So I'll come back. So I go get my coffee. And I come back, and I find out that this little community originally had a name of Fort Clinch. Well, the reason it had Fort Clinch was because Lake Clinch is on the left side of FROSTPROOF, and Lake Reedy is on the right side of FROSTPROOF. So Fort Clinch, Lake Clinch, very imaginative, huh? But that only lasted for a short period of time, and everybody left. And for 20 years, there was theoretically nobody living there. And then the next thing you know, people started settling in the FROSTPROOF area. And at that point, they called it Keystone City. Keystone City was really not a real name. It was just a name they made up. They told everybody, I live in Keystone City. There was no real legal name associated with Keystone City. So the guys are telling me all this, and I say, okay, but how did you get the name FROSTPROOF? He says, well, there were two guys back in the late 1800s that were competing against each other, if you want to call it that. One guy was excited about the idea that he wanted to be a politician, and his name was H.W. Overrocker, or Rocker, depending on how you want to pronounce his name. So let's call it Overrocker. He wanted to be a politician. Then the other guy in town that had some clout, some weight, that was involved in everything, his name was Joseph Washington Carson. So we'll call him Carson, and we'll call the politician Overrocker. Carson, the entrepreneur, Overrocker, the politician. Now, Carson and his dad and his brother, pardon me, started buying land. Bought an acre, bought 10 acres, bought 100 acres over time, and started planting citrus and sugar cane. And so they became very profitable at producing citrus. And the ground was perfect for growing citrus in Florida. Right in the middle of the state, a great big lake on one side, a lake on the other side. Perfect. Location, perfect. So Carson, the entrepreneur, and Overrocker, the politician, both wanted the same thing at the same time at some point. They wanted a post office. Now, the closest post office was at Fort Meade, which was 18 miles away on horseback. And so it was a bit of a trip to get your mail. So you just didn't go over there every day. So Carson and Overrocker decided we need to have a post office. Let's send in our name of Keystone City to the Postal Service or the government up north in Florida, and let's get a designation, an official designation, and a post office assigned to our area, and we'll call it Keystone City. Well, they sent the paperwork up. The paperwork came back, rejected. They said, no, we can't give you Keystone City. There's already a Keystone Heights in northern Florida. It would be too complicated. Someone might confuse the two. We reject your name of Keystone City. So Overrocker, the politician, decided that we need to submit another name, and they tried to come up with a name that they thought everyone could live with, and Overrocker and Carson are back and forth on names. So ultimately, Overrocker wanted to call the town Lakemont. And Carson, being the entrepreneur and wanting more people to come to the area farmers and agricultural people, because the ground was just perfect for it, build the town, make it larger, have more tax base, have more things to do. The entrepreneur wanted some catchy name for the town, and he decided to call it FROSTPROOF. And of course, Ohrrocker thought that was silly. It was dumb. It's an obvious marketing ploy. It's not going to work. We're not doing that, and there's no way. I'm not getting involved in calling this town FROSTPROOF. It's stupid. And Carson tried to make the point that it is a marketing ploy and it will bring people to settle here and the town will grow. We need to do this. And Ohrrocker put his foot down and said, nope, we're going to call it Lakemont. Okay, so Carson gave up and said, fine, that's great, no problem, let's do it. So the paperwork was filled out and it had to be taken over to Fort Meade, 18 miles away. And Ohrrocker was getting ready to go over there and he fell off his horse, turned his ankle, and decided that it was going to be too tough for him to go 18 miles over, 18 miles back on horseback. It wasn't a serious situation, but it just would be an agonizing trip with a sprained ankle. And so he asked Carson if he wouldn't take over the documentation 18 miles away to Fort Meade for sending the paperwork up north to get the town approved for the name Lakemont. Carson said, okay, I'll do it. So Carson had to decide whether he wanted to go on horseback or whether he wanted to go in a buckboard. And he thought, it'd be like taking a sports car versus a luxury car. Shall I take the buckboard or shall I take the horsey? Well, 18 over and 18 back, you're going to be in the saddle a while. So he decided the buckboard was for him. So off, he gets the paperwork. He says, I'll see you. It's an all-day jaunt, all the way over, all the way back. Halfway over, Carson has this great idea. He pulls his buckboard over under a tree, pulls out the paperwork out of the satchel, and looks at it and decides to change the name of the town. So he changes all the Lakemont name and inserts the name FROSTPROOF. He takes it over to Fort Meade. He delivers the paperwork with FROSTPROOF on it. They send it up north to the north in Tallahassee for approval. And Tallahassee looks at it and says there's no other Frostport in Florida and decided to grant them the name of the post office being FROSTPROOF, and the name of the town, of course, would end up being FROSTPROOF also. So Carson comes back in his buckboard with his little horsey, and he doesn't say a word. And a couple, 3 or 4 weeks later, here comes the mail, and Mr. Ohrrocker, Mr. H.W. Ohrrocker, discovers to his surprise that he is now the postmaster of the FROSTPROOF post office. And that's how FROSTPROOF became FROSTPROOF.